The quiet coastal town of Graymarsh Bay in Washington was the kind of place most travelers passed without noticing. The sea was always covered in a thick layer of fog. The streets stayed empty after sunset, and the old wooden houses seemed tired, as if they had watched too many winters. Every local followed one rule. When the night bells ring, stay inside. Our story follows Daniel Harper, a traveling filmmaker from Los Angeles who specialized in exploring small towns with strange histories. Daniel arrived in Graymarsh Bay after receiving an anonymous message that simply said, "They re-ringing again." On his first day, Daniel walked through the empty boardwalk. The air was calm, but something about the silence felt unnatural. Even the waves hitting the shore sounded muted, as if the ocean itself was holding its breath. Daniel entered a small diner. The waitress served him tea, without saying a word at first, then quietly said, "You should leave before dark." Daniel asked her what the bells meant. She didn't answer directly. She only pointed to a wall of old photographs, people who had gone missing over the years. Their dates all matched nights when the bells were heard. As the sun went down, Daniel reached the motel. He filmed his intro and explained why he had come to this forgotten town. Suddenly, a soft bell rang outside. Daniel looked at the window, confused. Bell? Bell? Bell! Bell. He walked out, cautiously. The entire town looked frozen. No lights. No movement. Only fog drifting slowly between the buildings. Daniel followed the sound toward the shore. The fog parted just enough for him to see a tall shape standing near the water. Daniel ran back to the motel. As he locked the door, he heard footsteps outside. Calm, slow, as if someone was simply walking past, but the steps lasted too long. Passing his room, circling back again, stopping right in front of his door. The room light flickered. Then the footsteps faded. The next morning started normally. The sun was bright, for the first time since he arrived. Hoping to learn more, Daniel visited the oldest part of town. There he found an old church with its doors half. Inside hung a giant, rusted bell, covered with engravings. A man was sitting inside, the retired lighthouse keeper named Rohan. He spoke softly. "You heard the bells last night, didn't you? Once you hear them, the town remembers you." Rowan explained that, long ago, there had been a massive shipwreck in Graymarsh Bay. After that night, strange things began happening. People would hear bells after midnight. Anyone who stepped outside during the bells would simply vanish without a trace. Daniel asked, "Where do they go?" Rowan shook his head. "The town keeps them." Confused, Daniel continued exploring. Near the forest, he discovered an old lighthouse, now closed to the public. Its door was chained, its windows dark. Yet inside, he could hear a faint echo, almost like a bell underwater. He recorded everything. Night came quickly. Daniel stayed inside, but the bells began again, this time louder. His window slowly misted over, and soft shadows passed by outside. Not running, not rushing, just calmly drifting. Something tapped the glass gently, almost politely. Tap, tap. Daniel froze. The shadow on the window did not match a human shape. It was taller, thinner, and moved like it was floating. Then it vanished. Unable to sleep, Daniel reviewed the footage from earlier that day. But something was wrong. In the recordings from the lighthouse area, he saw faint shapes behind him, shapes A&T noticed while filming. They looked like people standing still in the fog. The next morning, Daniel met a fisherman who finally told him the truth. The town appears and disappears. Some days, it's here. Some days, it's gone. It keeps whoever listens to the bells. Daniel didn't want to believe it, but as he walked around, he noticed something strange. The town's streets had changed. Some buildings looked older. Some roads didn't lead where they had yesterday. It was as if the whole town was shifting like a maze. Daniel hurried to the lighthouse, thinking it might hold answers. The chains were broken, the door slightly open. Inside, the spiral staircase led him upward, each step echoing softly. At the top, he reached the lantern room. The glass was covered in soot and dust, but in the center stood a smaller bell, perfectly preserved, glowing faintly. Then Daniel heard footsteps behind him. Slow, steady. He turned. No one was there, yet he wasn't alone. He felt someone standing very close, watching. A soft bell chimed right beside his ear. The room darkened, even though the sun was outside. The fog pressed against the windows. And then Daniel realized something. The bell in the lighthouse was not an object. It was a signal. When it rang, the town changed. When it rang, the town remembered. Daniel ran down the stairs. The building shook slightly as if reacting. He escaped through the main doors and sprinted toward the forest. But every path led him back toward town. Every turn returned him to the same street. Every road circled back to the lighthouse. The town had closed in. Daniel realized the town wasn't haunted. The town itself was alive. At nightfall, the bells rang again louder than ever. The fog rose from the sea, surrounding every house, every street, every door. Shapes moved inside it, gentle and slow. As they passed, Daniel felt the temperature drop sharply. He hid behind a fishing shack, recording everything. The fog shapes approached the town square. When the final bell rang, every shape stopped and turned toward Daniel's hiding place, as if they all knew exactly where he was. Daniel ran for the shore, hoping to reach the open road. The fog followed silently, blocking his way and guiding him gently back toward the lighthouse. The bells rang again, and Daniel felt the ground vibrate. The lighthouse slowly lit itself, an old, warm light like a beacon. But he knew the truth. It wasn't inviting him. It was claiming him. Daniel turned to run, but the fog rose like a wall, surrounding him. The shapes stood in a circle around him, but they did not touch him. They simply stared. The bells rang one last time. Everything faded. The next morning, a local boat captain found Daniel's empty camera on the beach. When he played the recording, Daniel's voice whispered softly, "If you hear the bells, don't follow them." Graymarsh Bay hasn't appeared on any map since. Some nights, fishermen at sea claim they see a small town covered in fog, and sometimes they hear bells in the distance.